Hello everybody, Doc Scantlin here, and making some movies about our adventures in building guitars. And I thought I would give you a little movie about a subject that could be very serious to some of you that work with wood, and that's the dangers of wood. Not the dangers in that big plank can fall on your stinking head and hurt, not that danger, but more the danger of wood dust, the danger of poisons in wood. We do know that if you make a cooking utensil out of yew, English yew, wood, Y-E-W, it's poisonous. It's absolutely poisonous. We do know that mostly tropical woods that grow in the jungles where things are growing fast and furious 24 hours a day. It's hot all the time, it's moist all the time, things love to grow there. And the trees need to protect themselves, so they give off chemicals to repel the insects that would just love to eat them. Those are forms of poison. So there's two things in wood that I think you need to be aware of if you want to work with wood or if you're working with wood. One of them is allergies, and the other is particles that can get in your lungs. I'm allergic to rosewood. I never was before. And when I first started building guitars in 1964, my friend had a shop. His father had a shop, actually. We were kids. In the basement, it had table saw, belt sander, bandsaw, jointer, lots of power tools, and he just let us do whatever we wanted to do. I never took a shop class. I didn't know anything about any of these tools. We kind of figured it all out. We had fun with it. But if we wanted to make a neck, we sawed out a piece of wood on the bandsaw and then took it over to the belt sander and just grind it into the shape of a neck. Just fill the whole shop with dust all over us, breathing the dust, no mask. And that's what we did. That's what we did. And when I worked at Gruen Guitars in the late 70s, it was the same thing. Nobody worked, I mean, whether it was Kim Walker, John Graven, Marty Lanham, none of us really had any training in woodworking. And we had just kind of picked this up on our own. The only one that did is the young fella, is 18 years old, that came from England. Matthew Klein later went to work for the Gibson Company as an engineer, and Matthew taught us some things about woodworking skills, because in England they had schools. They had schools for building guitars. There is no schools for building guitars in America. So anyway, we were of the grinding generation, just grind, dust. So we'd be up there working at Gruen guitars, and if it was something that we had to do something to take a certain amount of wood off of a piece of a guitar, we were making a part for a guitar, we wouldn't plane it. We didn't know about spoke shaves and draw knives and planes. There wasn't a plane in that shop. No card scrapers. It's all grind, sandpaper, grind. That's the way it was. Anyway, getting back to allergies. I started building guitars again, and I actually started fooling with the wood a few years ago. Got some rosewood, Indian rosewood, and I started itching. And my eyes would, sometimes if I get a lot of dust, and I wore a mask and I was careful, I learned a little bit. And it got terrible, blisters. I started doing some research on it, and I found out there was a fellow in California who wrote an extensive article on the internet about his fight with the wood allergies. He was a wood turner, and he loved to work with cocobolo, which is a lovely wood, and he started getting allergic to it. He went to the doctor, and his doctor was an expert in allergies, and he says, "You got to stop. You could die." And he says, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Yeah, don't fool with these allergy things." He says, "Your body, you could start off pretty benign, that you're just itching. Then all of a sudden, you can't breathe. And you go to the hospital and you're in shock. And it can kill you." He says, "Take this seriously." So the guy said, oh dear, well, I don't want to give this up. It's so much fun. I enjoy woodworking so much. He says, I'll put in a dust filtration system in my shop. And the doctor said, yeah, that's the worst thing you can do. And the guy said, what are you talking about? He said, no, the doctor said, because the particles that are going to get filtered out by your filtration system are not going to filter out the tiniest particles. It's like smoke from a cigarette. When you smoke a cigarette and the smoke goes up in the air, or a cigar, or flame of any kind, you see the smoke. These particles, there's particles in there, and they're so small, they just woof around. And there's no filter that could really filter those out. You have to filter the whole air pretty much, or it would take so much filtration that it would be forever for you to get that much air through, because it's restricting so much to try to catch those tiny particles. So he said the air filtration is not going to help you. In fact, it's worse because it gives you a false sense of security. You turn it on, you come in the next day to the shop and you realize, hey, there's no dust on my bench. Isn't that nice? Everything's clean in here. Wow, it's clean, no dust. Well, all it did was take out the dust particles that you can see, but the vapor particles of the wood that you can't see, it just circulated them in and blew them all around in your shop. And now you're breathing them. Not only that, is those tiny particles go deep into your lungs. You can't cough them out. Big particles either get stuck in your mucous membranes before they get to your lungs, or if they get to your lungs, they irritate your lungs and you cough them out. But the tiny smoke particles go deep into your lungs and they stay there. So not only do we have an allergy problem, but we have a problem of just foreign stuff that's in your lungs that your lungs can't get rid of. As efficient as your system is to cleanse it out, that evolved from dirt and stuff outdoors, not these fine particles and not this density of wood dust, microscopic wood dust that you would have in an environment of a shop, a closed shop. So if you're woodworking, if you're working with wood and you're concerned about this, two things. Wear a mask that is a vapor mask that's made for very dangerous vapors, because that's what you're dealing with, dangerous vapors, wood vapors. Even cutting wood with a chisel releases a certain amount of vapor. And some woods are worse than others on this. Tropical woods seem to be the worst. Rosewood seems to be one of the worst, and there's others. But rosewood, I know about rosewood. And the best thing you can do is work outdoors, or work in a shop that has a big window with a fan, and you're working, and what you're working on is in front of you, and then the fan's in front of that, blowing out a window or blowing out a door, so that the air is coming past you and it's all going outside. I have a shop that's very open. It's two big doors on one end. It's a very tiny shop. And on the other end, I have this big fan. So when I make dust, the air is blowing from behind me, sucking into that fan and blowing out to the neighbor's yard. So I let the neighbor take it. He doesn't care. So anyway, that's your best thing to do if you're going to try to do it. Now there is a fella so sensitive, he's allergic to spruce. And that I thought was very unusual. He cannot use any sandpaper. And of course, in the olden days, when they made musical instruments, they didn't have sandpaper. So they weren't making a lot of dust. They had planes, and they had scrapers and draw knives and cutting. They were cutting tools. They weren't grinding tools. So he has to work outside, completely outside, and wear a mask, and he's making shavings, and he has to be very careful because he's seriously allergic to this spruce. So I thought I'd just make a little video, and I used to think that wood dust was wood's organic, right? Organic. Be careful of the word organic and natural, because poison ivy is organic and natural. So be careful. Some things are not what you think they are. So if you're a woodworker, take care of yourself. Wear a heavy-duty mask when you're making dust. Try to keep the dust outside of your shop, and don't spend a lot of money on a filtration system in your shop that's just going to circulate what's the dangerous parts and give you a false sense of security. And try to learn to work more with planes and spoke shaves and draw knives and scrapers, and it's quieter, it's more pleasant, and a lot of these things give a better result actually than all the sandpaper, and usually cheaper too. So anyway, that's just a little trip for you woodworkers out there, and let me know what you think. Maybe you disagree to a certain extent. Maybe you have some experiences of your own. Maybe you have more experience than I do and more information than I do, and you can help the rest of us out. So God bless you all, and I hope you have a very wonderful day. And thank you so much as we proceed in our endeavor of building guitars for fun and forget about the profit. For fun. All right. God bless. Ta-ta.